All right, you lot, buckle up, because this deep dive is going to be a wild one. We're going to dig into a story that'll make you spit out your beer.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's 1968, man, the year of free love and revolution, but we're not talking about those hippies in San Francisco.
Right.
We're headed to a grimy Ford factory in Dagenham, England,
Dagenham.
where a bunch of women, just ordinary working-class women, said, enough of this shit. They stitched car seat covers, these women.
They were skilled workers.
But they were about to shake things up big time.
That they did. The context here is crucial. Post-war Britain. You'd think things be changing, but the old boys club, they were still running the show.
Same old story, eh?
Women expected to shut up, smile, and take whatever crap pay they were given.
Keep the little woman in her place, right?
Exactly.
Except these women weren't having any of it. They were bloody good at their jobs,
They were.
but they were getting paid a fraction of what the men were making.
Oh, the disparity was insane. Not just a few pennies, a systematic, total undervaluing of women's skills.
Makes your blood boil, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The sources you provided really highlighted this. Classified as unskilled labor, can you believe that? The precision, the expertise these women had.
Laughable, ain't it? These women were building the cars that were driving the British economy.
And treated like second-class citizens.
So they took action,
Went on strike.
and not just some little walkout.
Oh, no.
They shut the whole damn Dagenham plant down, brought Ford's production to a screeching halt.
Sent shockwaves through the whole bloody country.
That's how you make a statement. Hit them where it hurts, right in their precious production line.
They certainly got Ford's attention. The strike, it brought this whole issue of equal pay to the forefront.
It's a big deal, yeah.
National news, politicians forced to finally deal with this blatant injustice.
And that's where this Barbara Castle comes in, right?
Exactly.
Tell us about this woman. Who was she and why is she important to all this?
Barbara Castle, she was the employment secretary at the time. Formidable woman, especially in that male-dominated government.
A real trailblazer.
Champion for social justice. She saw what was happening in Dagenham and, well, she knew it was a pivotal moment. From the sources we've got, it seems she was instrumental in getting legislation drafted that would make equal pay the law.
So she wasn't just some out-of-touch politician spouting empty promises then.
No, she was a force to be reckoned with. Faced opposition, even from her own party, powerful industry lobbyists breathing down her neck. But she stood firm. Equal pay was a fundamental right, as far as she was concerned.
Good for her. Took on those old boys, didn't she? It's one thing to talk, but she actually got shit done.
That she did.
What about those women on the picket line? What were they after and how they managed to hold out for so long?
Their demands were pretty straightforward, really. Equal pay for equal work. Simple as that. They weren't asking for special favors just to be valued, same as their male colleagues. And their resilience was incredible. Financial hardship, ridicule, attempts to break the strike. They faced it all, but they stood their ground.
That takes guts.
It does.
It's easy to romanticize a strike, but it's bloody hard work.
It is.
These women put everything on the line.
They did. They organized marches, rallies, even took their protests to Parliament. They got support from all over, trade unions, women's groups, you name it. It became a national movement, this strike. They used the media brilliantly, gave interviews, told their stories. Public opinion swayed in their favor.
It wasn't just about waving banners and chanting slogans then.
Not at all. They played a smart game.
What about Ford? Did they just get bad PR out of this, or did it actually hurt them financially?
Oh, the financial impact was huge. The Dagenham plant, it was a major part of Ford's operation in the UK. That shut down, costing them millions. From what we've seen in the sources, that was a big factor in Ford finally agreeing to negotiate. That and the mounting public pressure.
So they shut the factory down, got the media on their side, and started costing Ford a fortune. Seems like a winning strategy. How did it actually end, though? Did those women get what they wanted?
It lasted 3 weeks, the strike. And while they didn't achieve full equal pay, they got significant concessions from Ford. A pay raise that brought them much closer to what the men were earning. And it paved the way for the Equal Pay Act of 1970.
1970. 2 years for the government to finally pass a law. What the hell took them so long?
Legislation takes time, even when you've got public pressure and political will. The Equal Pay Act, it was groundbreaking, but it wasn't smooth sailing. There was opposition from the conservatives in Parliament, businesses worried about the economic impact, and let's be honest, some just dragging their feet, not wanting to see women gain more power.
Typical. Change never comes easy, does it? Even when it's the right thing to do. But let's not forget, these women, They forced the government's hand, made it impossible to ignore the issue. That's bloody impressive.
Absolutely. The Dagenham strike, it was a watershed moment in the fight for gender equality in the UK, showed that ordinary women, united and determined, they could challenge the status quo and win. It inspired countless others to fight for their rights.
It's an incredible story, one that deserves to be told again and again. These women were pioneers. Their legacy lives on, inspiring people to this day. Now, there's a film about all this, Made in Dagenham. But before we get into that, let's just take a moment to appreciate these women. Badasses, every single one of them. No fancy degrees, no powerful connections, but they had something much stronger. Courage, solidarity, and a righteous anger that fueled their fight for justice.
Their story is a testament to the power of collective action, the courage to challenge deep-seated inequalities. It reminds us that change doesn't happen by waiting for someone else to act. It happens when we take a stand and demand what's right.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And you know what? They did it all while looking damn cool, rocking that 60s style.
Miniskirts, beehives, and attitude to spare.
Those women were stylish as hell. They knew how to make a statement. The original feminist icons, you could say.
Their style, it reflected the times, but it also served a purpose, humanized them. Showed they weren't just angry protesters, they were real women with lives and personalities. Made them relatable to a wider audience. That was crucial in getting the public on their side.
Smart move. They knew how to play the game, and they played it well. All right, let's talk about the film. I hear it's a tearjerker. But does it do justice to the story? Does it capture the grit, the determination of these women?
Made in Dagenham, it's a dramatization. There are some creative liberties taken, but it captures the spirit of the strike, highlights the key issues. It's a feel-good film, yeah, but it doesn't shy away from the complexities, the sacrifices these women made.
So not a perfect historical account, but it gets the heart of the story right.
Exactly.
What about the main character, Rita O'Grady? Is she based on a real person, or is she a Hollywood invention?
Rita, she's actually a composite character, a fictional creation to represent the spirit of all the women involved. There wasn't one single leader of this strike. There were many women who showed the same courage, determination, and sharp wit that Rita embodies in the film.
So it's more about capturing the essence of the movement, rather than focusing on any one individual.
Exactly.
Fair enough. But let's not forget the real women who made this happen. Connie, Brenda, Sandra. The sources mention their names. They were the unsung heroes, the ones who risked everything to fight for a better future.
Absolutely. And the film does a good job of showing the camaraderie, the solidarity among those women. That shared purpose, that's what fueled their fight. The challenges, the personal sacrifices, the strength they drew from each other, it's all there.
It's a good reminder that even when it feels like the whole system is against you, there's power in unity.
Yeah.
Strength in knowing you're not alone in your struggle. Sometimes all it takes is a spark, a group of ordinary people who say, enough. And a movement ignites, a movement that can change the world.
The Dagenham strike, that's a perfect example of that. Not a grand revolution, but a group of women tired of being treated unfairly. They took a stand, and they won a victory not just for themselves, but they set things in motion that had a lasting impact on gender equality in the UK.
And we can't forget the music. The film soundtrack is fantastic, full of classic 60s tunes that capture that energy, that rebellious spirit. But there's one that stands out, the title track, sung by Sandy Shaw. And get this, she actually worked at the Dagenham plant before she became a pop star.
No, that's a cool detail. It adds a layer of authenticity, you know. Shows that these women, they were real people with lives and dreams beyond those factory walls. Sandy Shaw's story, it's a reminder that even in the middle of struggle, there's always hope, the possibility of achieving something extraordinary.
Love that. Sometimes the most powerful stories come from the most unexpected places. Who'd have thought a bunch of sewing machinists in a grimy Ford factory would become feminist icons? But that's history for you, always full of surprises. And it's our job to dig deep, uncover these stories, and share them.
Absolutely. The Dagenham strike is a story that deserves to be told, retold, a testament to the human spirit, to the power of collective action, and to the enduring fight for equality. It reminds us that even when things seem impossible, change can happen, if we have the courage to demand it. And Sandy Shaw, working at Dagenham, that adds something, doesn't it? It's not just the strike itself. It's about music amplifying these movements.
Yeah, music's always been a bit of a middle finger to the establishment, right? All those protest songs, firing people up, bringing down walls, music can really stir the pot.
It can. And in Dagenham, having Sandy Shaw, someone who was actually there, singing that title track, it's raw, authentic, not something a Hollywood composer could just conjure up.
It's like those women on the picket line were singing their struggles, their hopes, bottled up in one song. Powerful stuff.
Powerful, yeah. And it wasn't just Sandy Shaw. The whole soundtrack of Made in Dagenham is like a tapestry of the 60s. You've got Motown, soulful stuff, bit of rock and roll rebellion. It all blends together, takes you right back to that time.
A time capsule in audio form. You close your eyes and you can practically smell the hairspray. Feel that energy of those women marching, demanding to be heard. Music's amazing like that.
It is. That's why the filmmakers were so careful with the music. It wasn't just background noise. It was part of the story, a way to connect the audience to what those women were going through.
They did a bloody good job, didn't they? Even those snooty film critics loved it. Roger Ebert, the big guy himself, praised the film. Heartwarming. Captured the era, he said.
And Mark Kermode, he's a tough one to please. He loved the performances, especially Sally Hawkins as Rita. Raw vulnerability, fierce determination, he said. You instantly root for her.
So it's not just some fluffy film about factory workers then. There's some actual art in there.
There is. Made in Dagenham is well made. It balances the humor and the serious stuff. A powerful message about social justice. Entertaining, insightful, inspiring. The whole package.
Sounds like I need to watch it. But before I do, let's dig a bit more into the film itself. You said they took some creative liberties. What else did they change for Hollywood?
Well, aside from Rita being a made-up character, they shortened the timeline. The strike, it really lasted 3 weeks, but in the film, it's all squeezed together. Keeps things moving, I suppose.
So they played fast and loose with the facts for the sake of a good story. Typical Hollywood, always fiddling with history. As long as they got the heart of it right, the spirit of those women, their fight, then I can let it slide.
And that's the important part. It might not be perfectly accurate, every little detail, but the core message of Dagenham is there, equal pay, and the incredible women who fought for it.
Fair enough. Bit of drama is expected, I guess, especially trying to fit a complicated event into a 2-hour film. But let's not lose sight of the real story, the one that happened in Dagenham. Those women made history. We should remember them.
We should. The Dagenham strike, it was a turning point for women's rights in the UK. Paved the way for more equality at work, inspired a whole generation of women.
Makes you think, doesn't it? How much has changed since 1968, but also how much hasn't? We've come a long way, but that fight for equality, it's not over.
Not by a long shot.
We still hear those same arguments. Wage gap, women's roles, all that crap that should have been left in the past. Some people are stuck in a time warp.
It's frustrating. As if some people are actually scared of progress, terrified of a world where women are treated as equals. They cling to the old ways because it's all they know, and they're shit scared of what might happen if things actually changed.
So what do? Another army of furious women shutting everything down. I wouldn't mind a bit of chaos, but maybe there's a more, subtle way.
I don't think we need another factory shutdown, though I wouldn't rule it out completely. We need constant pressure, a constant push for change, demanding equal pay, supporting policies that help women, calling out bullshit whenever we see it, hold those in power accountable, make them squirm, force them to confront these inequalities that still exist.
Sounds like a plan. But it can't just be on women to fix this, can it? Men need to get involved, stop being part of the problem.
Absolutely. This isn't just a women's issue, it's a human issue. We need men to be allies. Challenge their own biases, fight for a fairer world. And it's not about being woke or whatever the hell they call it these days. It's about being decent. Treating everyone with respect, it's not that complicated.
It's not. We're all in this together. A world that's fairer for women is a better world for everyone. So after this Dagenham deep dive, what should people take away from it? What's the big lesson?
The big lesson, no matter who you are, where you come from, you can make a difference. Those women in Dagenham, they weren't revolutionaries. They were ordinary people who stood up for what they believed in, and they changed history.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like one person can't do anything, but they proved that wrong.
They did. They showed that even small actions, when we do them together, they can have a ripple effect. And that's why it's so important to speak out, support those fighting for change, and never underestimate what can happen when people unite.
Let's raise a glass to those women. They dared to demand more, fought for equality, inspired generations.
To the women of Dagenham.
Now, before we get all soppy, let's take a moment to appreciate what they did. It wasn't just a pay raise. They got people talking about equality. They forced the government to act, and they inspired countless women. And they did it all with style and a hell of a lot of grit.
Their story deserves to be celebrated, not just because it's important historically, but because it's a message of hope, resilience, that human spirit that never gives up.
Damn right. All right, let's wrap up this Dagenham deep dive with some final thoughts. We've covered a lot, from factories in '68 to Hollywood, but what do we want our listeners to remember? What's the one thing they should take away from all of this? Let's be real for a sec. We've talked about the Dagenham strike, the film, the music, but where does that leave us now? Have things really changed, or are we still stuck in the same old shit?
That's the big question, isn't it? On the surface, yeah, it looks like we've moved forward. Women CEOs, prime ministers, astronauts.
We've come a long way, baby.
Right. But then you look closer, those same old inequalities, they're still there, lurking beneath the surface.
Still hear the same crap about the wage gap, women's roles, like some people haven't moved on since the '60s, stuck in some kind of time warp.
It's like they're scared of progress, terrified of a world where women are actually equal, clinging to those old power structures because it's all they know. Shit scared of what might happen if things really changed.
So what do we do then? Another army of women shutting everything down. Bit extreme, maybe?
I don't think we need another factory shutdown. Although, never say never, we need to keep the pressure on, push for change constantly, demanding equal pay, supporting policies that actually help women, calling out bullshit every chance we get.
Make those in power sweat a little.
Exactly. Force them to face the facts. Those inequalities are still here.
Can't just be women sorting this mess out, though, can it? Men need to pull their weight.
Absolutely. This isn't a women's issue. It's a human issue. Men need to be allies, challenge their own biases, fight for a world that's fair for everyone. It's not about being woke. It's about being decent. Just treat everyone with respect. Simples.
Totally. A world where women are treated fairly, that's a better world for all of us. So what's the main takeaway from all this? What do we want our listeners to remember about Dagenham and what those women did?
Remember that change is possible, but we have to make it happen. It's not enough to just talk about equality. We have to actually live it. Challenge the status quo. Support those fighting for change. Never be afraid to speak up. Those sewing machinists, they showed us that even small acts of defiance can make a difference.
Yeah, they didn't back down. Powerful stuff.
And those small actions, when we do them together, they can have a huge impact.
So speak up, folks. Support each other. And never underestimate what we can achieve when we work together. To those badass women of Dagenham, we salute you. You showed the world what happens when you stand up for what's right.
They really did. A true inspiration.
And that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, you beautiful bastards. Go out there and make some noise.